Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. President and Honorable Board of Directors. I'm Councilman Phat Bui from Garden Grove, representing the largest city in MW Dock, Division 3. But I'm also the chairman of the Vietnamese American Federation of Southern California, representing some 200,000 people in Vietnamese American in Southern California. I'm here today to ask for your support for Senator Janet Nguyen. She has represented Garden Grove for over 14 years and has never lost an election in Garden Grove because she is well respected and has always put her constituents first. This district is over 30% Asian Americans. Majority of them are Vietnamese Americans. Every elected position that Senator Janet Nguyen has held, she has made the office accessible to her constituents. You know, before her times, she has made the office, before her time as she was elected to the Board of Supervisors and State Senate, we didn't even know what the positions are, what it does and how it benefits us as residents of the city. And this morning, as I stand here before you, even as a councilman in my second term, I don't even know who represented us on MWDOC Division 3. That person has never visited us. They have never visited the city council dais and introduced to us what the board mission is, what it does for us. I know a little bit about waters when the Poseidon project came about, and residents of Garden Grove become very concerned about it. And former Mayor Bao Nguyen bring it up as a major issue for our city. That's the only time that I know about it. And not a single member of the water district came to our city. It was us who defend the position and respect the water board mission, and fought against Mayor Bao decision to interfere with the water board business. I know that with Senator Nguyen, all of that will change. She will make sure we will know and get us involved in MWDOC to fight for our share of the water rights supplies. You know, I have seen it. I joined Senator Janet Nguyen last year in bringing the delegation of over 600 Vietnamese Americans. We took the 2 Greyhound bus going overnight through the night to Sacramento. And what was more amazing is that those people have never, I'm going to have time.
Yeah, the duck quack, so when the duck quacks, your time's up.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
No problem. I understand you need to save time for others. So in short, I just want to ask you to support her, and thank you very much for the opportunity to come here.
Thank you, Councilman. We have another one. Good morning.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Hello, I am Miha Bui, and I live in the city of Stanton. I'm here to support Senator Janet Nguyen to fill the vacancy to represent me on MOPDOC. Okay, she is the most qualified candidate to help us fight Sacramento and get our fair share of water supplies. She is accessible and has tirelessly fought for our community throughout the years too. We need her to come back and fight for us again. Okay, since this district is over 30% Asian Americans, like what Mr. Bui has said earlier, I hope we will support her because she is also an Asian American, which is a bonus plus, right? Not only does she walk the talk, but she is also the look of our district and its future. And so today I am here to represent her and support her, Senator Nguyen, so that she can get back to working and fighting for us. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public? Betty?
Yes, thank you. So my name is Betty Burnett, and I put in for the position and then realized that I am very busy being a general manager at South Orange County Wastewater Authority. I have 30 years of experience in this business as well. I also represent and am a part of the community in Division 3 and very much appreciate the service of Director Osborne. I think that we really have to think about what this job is. And it's about water, and it's about having enough time and effort and understanding to really dig in. And I really hope the person that takes this post will be committed for the long term to really learn this topic and really learn the future. Knowing how much water we have here in Orange County, knowing about the current Senate bills, that how they will impact not only our water supply, but our recycled water supply. So this is a job, this is gonna be a hit the ground running job to be a learning experience and a commitment. I hope the person who takes the job will have that long-term commitment. I just had an opportunity to learn a little bit more about incompatibility. If you have any connection to water, including using it at your home, and you enter another public office, you will be giving up the office that you are holding, which potentially means that in the future you could be looking at replacing this position again, maybe in the short term. I agree with having qualified, dedicated public servants, and given my party affiliation, I was absolutely appalled at how some of our last elections turned out, and I could have wallpapered my living room with the amount of mail that I got. And a lot of it I thought was really misrepresentative. So I really encourage the whole community to be politically active, to care about their elected officials, to learn about these offices, and to pick really great people and get behind them, because there are strong headwinds across all of California. So with that, good luck, gentlemen, and ladies, making a wonderful decision today, and I fully support this agency, as I said when I interviewed. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Any other comments? Any other public comments? Jim, are you gonna make some?
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually wasn't planning on making any comments, but I'm Jim Atkinson, Mesa Water District, and you've got a wonderful list of candidates. I wasn't able to stay for your interview process the other day, but I certainly have known one of the candidates for a very long time, for over 15 years, and his knowledge of the water industry and the water situation in the county is probably unmatched among your candidates. So I just wanted to say that I'm speaking in support of Bob McVicker, because Bob has worked in numerous positions, including as the district engineer at Mesa Water before he retired. And his involvement with the pumping agencies, as well as the agencies that use water from Municipal Water District of Orange County, is very broad. And his ability to work through issues with both your board and the other pumping boards is probably unmatched among your candidates. So again, I'm encouraging your support for Mr. Bob McVicker.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments, questions? Okay, let's bring it back to the board. So what I'd like to do, we have 7 candidates and we have 5 directors. So what I'd like our secretary to do is to call the roll. Let's start at the bottom, work our way up, and let's ask each director if they have a number 1 candidate, and see if we can slowly pare down the number and then arrive at a final decision. So.
Before we start, I'd like to make some comments. I just wanted to thank everyone for taking their time to participate in this obviously very important and difficult decision that we have before us. And for those of you that know me, know that I'm extremely passionate about serving our community and doing what's right. And this is a lot of work that we put into serving on the Municipal Water District of Orange County Board. And you're absolutely right. It's difficult to know everything that we do and all that we do because we are a complex organization layered with many different member agencies that serve all of you constituents. And it takes a lot of time for us to be engaged. It takes a lot of time for us to interface with the staff and with the electeds at our member agencies. And it's a job that I take very passionately and take very seriously. And I just wanted to echo the commentary that we're fortunate to have a slate of very qualified and capable candidates, well beyond the minimum requirements of being 18 and registered to vote. I think that we have several very highly technically qualified candidates as well as politically qualified candidates. And I think Pierre really hit the nail on the head when he mentioned that this is a combination. It really requires being politically engaged as well as technically informed. And you know, you have to know more than just water is H2O and that we all need it to survive. And I think that we spend a lot of time in what we do because we realize how important it is. And we realize that Orange County would not be the economic epicenter that it is without the water supply that we have. If you look at all of the different communities around the world and all the major economies in the world, they're all next to a natural body of water. And yet Orange County is the 6th largest county economically in the state, or I'm sorry, in the country. And we don't have a natural river that supplies us with all of our water. We have the State Water Project and the Colorado River Aqueduct. And so it takes a lot of coordination, it takes a lot of collaboration, and it takes a lot of effort to make the water safe and affordable for all of our communities. And so I just wanted everyone to know that today's decision isn't going to be easy, and we thank you for bearing with us as we go through this. This is not by no means a mark on your capabilities or your character or your ability to serve. It is simply a decision based off of what we know about each candidate and how we feel that they will best represent and serve our community. Thank you.
Okay, Mary Beth, would you call
Just
the roll?
one quick comment. I was just going to say for the board's benefit, as I think all of you know, so 4 votes are required.
Right.
Whatever process you
Right.
want to do to get to 4 at the end, there needs to be 4. So if it's a
Yep,
board
I get that.
sanctioned process ahead of time, it's fine.
I guess the one follow-up is if we can't arrive at a decision today, how many days do we have before this gets kicked back to the board?
Have
of
until
Supervisors?
June 21st.
Till June 21st, okay.
Yeah, and I also would rather probably not, and we haven't talked about this, but have a motion and a substitute motion.
Yeah,
I think we ought to treat,
but
if there is a motion, one at a time. and then-
We're
okay.
just gonna see if we can pare it down and then go from there, so, Mary
We'll
Beth?
start with Division 7, Director Hugh Schneider.
My top candidate as of this moment is Conway.
Division 6, Director Thomas.
My pick is Larry Crandall.
Division 5, Director Tamarabuchi.
Conway.
Division 2, Director Dick.
I would like to take this opportunity to share a few remarks as well. I looked at the list, I attended the opportunity to hear from each of the candidates, and I agree with the director. I think we could take Division 3 and turn it into 3A, 3B, 3C, and run all the way to G, and have it be very well represented by each of these folks. I've even suggested we could put their names in a hat and pull one out. The talent pool contains no losers. And I wanted everyone to understand it takes just as much determination, just as much intellect, just as much courage to stand up and say, choose me, and not be selected, as it did for them to stand up and be selected. These are people that are willing to serve, and they all deserve a thank you. I'm having a rough time here for a couple of reasons. One of them is I've known Janet Wynn for a long time. I've contributed to her fundraisers. I have been supportive of her, and I still am. But based upon the facets that are employed here, I will be saying my first choice would be Mr. Crandall.
Division 1, President Barbary.
And mine is Janet Wynn. So we have 3 potential candidates. We have 4 others. Is there any, are we okay setting those 4 aside? I just want to make sure. Sad, are you okay setting the other 4 aside just for the purpose of discussions now?
Yeah.
Okay, Jeff, you good? Larry?
I want to make sure I understand this.
We
because
can always come back.
We
but
can always
just-
circle back.
We can always circle back.
If I decided I really, really wanted Larry, if I've determined that doesn't happen, I can still vote for Betty,
Correct.
even though I know.
Right.
Okay, I want to make sure I got it.
And are you okay with that? Just
That's fine.
Okay, so now we're down to 3 potential for discussion now. So Megan, you kind of had your say. Larry, you've had your say. Zach, do you want to have your say, and then we'll go to Jeff?
Well, I pretty much agree with everything that Larry and Megan indicated. I think it's, we're very fortunate to have people who are willing to actually put their name in the hat and be considered. I think that's something that more people ought to do and don't do. But I think the reason why I'm supporting Con is I really think that it is very helpful to have a technical background. I think the issues that we deal with are very technical, but also political in nature. But so I just, it's really a matter, it's really a judgment call. It's very, this is a very difficult decision to make. I mean, everybody probably could do the job. Everybody's probably more qualified to do the job than me. That was one of the things I was thinking about was when we were doing the interviews, we almost set a standard that's higher than ourselves in reality. And so anyway, that's why I generally supported Con.
Jeff?
Yeah, thank you. Some of you may not know, I'm an appointee. I got appointed to the job, and so I had to go through this process once before. I want to thank all the candidates who went through this. This is not fun by any stretch, and it does push you to your limits. It does raise, I think, the bar. One thing I have to say, and I told my brethren here this, is that not one person that applied you could look at and go, oh boy, that one, get him out. No, not one. And usually you can kind of judge from a group who's qualified to do this and who's not. I came down with Larry Crandall because of, actually voted for him last time, and we weren't successful. I've known him a very long time and have worked with him in water. The other candidates are equally as good. I do, however, want to make just a slight apology to Division 3 in that you haven't seen anybody. I know maybe your community is feeling that you haven't been well represented. That will change today. And I know the director that we picked, no matter who it is, now knows that they need to get out to see you and talk with you and deal with you, whomever it is. And I will make sure, and so will the board members here, make sure that that happens. That is something that we do believe in, is the communication. So that's the one part I have to say I was just a little bit disappointed with, is that there's a number of folks who didn't feel that there was proper communication. And we're very good at that. We're extremely good. In fact, I go out to my community quite a bit, and I talk with my constituency, and they're a pretty ratty group. I've got quite a lot of people have got a lot of opinions on water in my division, and I actually enjoy it quite a bit. So I want to thank all of you too. I'm honored that you all came out, and those that served, after Memorial Day too. I want to honor you and tell you thank you for your service too. And we have a strong commitment to the Vietnamese community, and I want you to know that. So thank you all for being here.
So I guess it's to me. So this is my 3rd time going through an appointment, 2nd time in this district. Ed Royce Sr. was 2000, we consolidated with Coastal Municipal Water District. So for the first time, we had a county-wide water board. And our primary role is to work policy up at Metropolitan. That's the primary role of this agency. And issues that affect Metropolitan, we are supposed to be the ones carrying the water, no pun intended, at Met for those issues. So that's the primacy of this agency. 95% of what this agency does is metropolitan. That's why we were formed. And Ed Royce Sr. had been a Met director. He was on the Stanton City Council, retired as a veteran business owner, was out in his community all the time, was very well known in the political community because this was primarily a policy-driven board. He had to step aside because of health reasons. And so we went through the process, and with Jeff, I was in favor of Mr. Crandall. I knew Larry from his days on city council. He'd been chair of the sanitation district, which was a regional board. He understood policy. And even to this day, I greatly respect Larry. But we were outvoted. What's the first lesson in politics? It's how to count. That we couldn't count to 4 back then. So it was Mr. Osborne. And Wayne was a technical guy. He was an engineer. And he never went out to his agencies. He would go to Fountain Valley periodically because he had been public works director. But we tried to get him out. Periodically, he'd show up to meetings with Golden State, which provides water service to a large portion of the district. The technical background is fine, but we're a policy-driven board. We're all about policy. And so that's how I look at it. We look out for the financial piece and the policy piece. So in the middle of that, we had a large drought, significant drought. And so this board made the decision to make a substantial investment in the ethnic chambers around Orange County. We invested memberships in the Hispanic Chamber, in the Black Chamber of Commerce, in the Vietnamese, the Chinese, all the different ethnic chambers throughout the county. And a majority of them were in Wayne's district. And we urged Wayne to go and participate. He voted against it. He didn't think it was necessary. He thought the city staffs and those folks could take care of it. If you look at the change, the ethnic breakdown in the 3rd district, I decided, well, I'm going to sit down and see what it looks like. So I pulled the congressional delegation. We have 3 folks that represent the 3rd district. One is a Hispanic female, one is a Jewish male, one is a non-Hispanic white male. You look at the state Senate, we have 1 Taiwanese female, 1 non-Hispanic white male. In the Assembly, we have a Vietnamese male, a Hispanic female. The Board of Soups, a Vietnamese male, a Korean female. OCWD, and this is what I don't understand, maybe Kathy can explain it to me at some point. You have 5 people representing District 3. You have a Vietnamese male, a Vietnamese female, a Taiwanese male, a non-Hispanic white male, non-Hispanic white female. You're the latter. And then the cities, Cypress, Fountain Valley, they're all very ethnically diverse. And so I look at this district, and we need to put somebody in there that's going to work the community, is going to work with the various growing ethnic groups. I mean, one of my favorite things to do, my wife and I spent a lot of time in Little Saigon, because to me that is the essence of American capitalism. People coming from abroad, establishing a community. They were thrown out of their countries by the communists. They came here and they set up a community, and it's been very successful. So I think the top 2 issues that this agency is dealing with: the water tax, which is alive and well, and it's chugging its way through the Assembly. It may have been set aside in the Senate, but it's chugging its way through the Assembly. We need to fight to stop that. And the California water fix. I was amazed when a reporter called me and said, "Hey, what's this that you have a former senator interested in the position?" And I was so pleased that Janet put herself forward. It's a big risk for her to put herself forward for this. I've worked with Janet from when she worked for Ken Maddox, she was on the city council, she was on the Board of Soups, in the state Senate. We have a critical decision to make today, folks. Are we going to be a district, an agency that just goes to conferences, or are we going to be an agency that moves the ball down the road on policy and gets things accomplished? When we were moving the ball down the field on the water fix, everyone jumped in and we led the way. The governor kind of screwed us on that, but we can still get it back on track. Same thing, we took the lead on the water tax. Our public affairs team put together this packet that went out to all of our member agencies on how to fight the water tax. That's what this agency needs to be doing. We are an agency that looks 10, 15, 20 years down the road. We look to make sure that we're free of shortage and that we are supporting our member agencies. So that's why I come down to Janet, because to me, she checks all the boxes. She's political. She can do in Sacramento what no one else can do. She has relationships on the 5th floor. I mean, my goodness, she had 16 folks from the community that showed up at 8:30 on a Wednesday morning to speak in favor of her. We had a member of the Westminster City Council, the Garden Grove City Council, and a retired OC Board of Ed member. To me, that says it all. If we're truly going to be active as a board, and if we're going to push the agenda down the road, Janet's our candidate. If we want to just be an agency that goes to conferences and plays, maybe there's another candidate out there. That's why my vote's with Janet. Jeff?
Just a point of information too, and this has got to be asked. We received from council, we received a letter regarding incompatibility of offices, and one of the candidates decided to honor that. There is another candidate that was sent out to, who has decided to continue pursuing this. Please let us know what the effect of that is, because I need to get a little bit of clarification on that.
Sure. So if it was deemed that there was an incompatible office, and I sent, I provided some information to you about my thoughts as to whether it was or not, I think the possibility definitely exists. And under the law, the moment that the person assumes the position, the new position, the position that they previously held is forfeited. Now, how that is enforced is usually a request for an Attorney General opinion, or it could be done through an action brought by the Attorney General's office themselves. So,
And so, to follow up on what Jeff is saying, if that were to occur, MODOC wouldn't bear the legal burden. It would be the individual, him or herself, correct?
Which is why, in the end, it's ultimately a decision
Right.
for the individual of whether they're willing to take that risk and whether there is a determination. And again, it's a very fact-specific analysis. As Betty indicated, it appears to be fairly broadly applied. But it's not, it's in this situation where we have a more indirect relationship with the school district, we're not actually the provider of the water. There's an argument that it couldn't, it might not apply as well. So I came down not 100% conclusive, but there clearly is the possibility that that could be an issue.
And I think it's fair to share that risk with both candidates.
Yeah, I spoke to
Have they do
both
that? I
of
mean,
them.
with Betty, it's her livelihood, so I understand why she's not anxious to pursue it. And with Mr. Nguyen, it's an elected position of school board, so
Correct.
it's not as personal. Jeff, any other comments or?
No, on that. I was wondering how we'd want to proceed then on the candidates from this point on. I mean, we could re-vote again, but I am concerned about a conflict. I'm concerned that the minute we appoint them, somebody moves to remove them. And we've never done that before.
Well,
And
but
that does
they
nothing
wouldn't be
against
removed
Mr.
from,
Nguyen.
they wouldn't be removed from this board.
Right, that's
So-
correct.
So it's.
That's correct. That is absolutely correct.
But not to say it wouldn't, you couldn't generate a lot of people coming to our board meetings, taking time saying, hey, he should resign school board because it's a conflict. So that's, I agree, that is, I was actually surprised, Rich Murphy, who's on LaSalle City Council, when we chatted, and a lot of friends I know that chatted with him, he came to the conclusion he didn't want to give up his elected position that he'd fought hard for. And I think Betty doesn't want to give up her livelihood. We love having Betty down in Saukwa. She just had a huge victory. Why would you want to walk away from that? So and it's, look, it's up to the individual to decide what level of risk they're willing to take. If it were me, I wouldn't take that risk, because you're walking away from the voters that you just asked to vote you into a specific position, and you're putting that at risk. And so, but that's my decision making on that. Sam?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. I'd like to make it clear that I'm not supporting Khan because he's Vietnamese. I'm supporting Khan because I think he's the best person for the job at this point in time in my mind. And I also don't think just because you have a technical background, all you do is attend conferences and things of that sort, that we're not capable of dealing with policy issues. I think that it's important that as a baseline that you have people that are going to really delve in and understand what the issues are, and then that the things that we have to look at are really not 15 years out, where we need to be looking at 30 and 40 years out. You know, the water fix itself is going to take more than 15 years to come online. And we've got some very complex issues that we're going to have to deal with respect to Metropolitan Water District, where we're the primary representative for Orange County. And so I just, you know, I grew up in a time where maybe things were tough for Japanese Americans, I guess, at that point in time. And so but on the other hand, I would never vote for somebody based on what their ethnic background is.
Well, I guess that's a slap at me. I'm not voting for Janet because she's Vietnamese. I'm voting for her because she's a senator who will move stuff down the road. But there's an added benefit, and there's a reason why she's been in elective office all those years, because she does represent. She's not an old white guy that just hangs out with other old white guys, which is the knock on the water industry for the most part. It's great having Megan because she's young and a female and very active in women in water, and it has nothing to do with Janet's ethnicity. You know, the problem with the water fix has nothing to do with the technical solutions. We've known for 50 years what the technical solution is to the Delta. It's the public policy arena where that battle's increasingly being fought. It has nothing to do with that. If you just want to play that game, we'll never get anything done. You can study anything to death. I mean, we could turn into, you know, the board Wayne Clark always wanted us to be, which is go to conferences and do white papers. And I don't want any part of a board that does that, as you know. I think the most important thing we do is Met, and it's driving policy. It's not the technical piece. We have a technical staff that can deal with those minor issues, but you know, when you get down to water quality issues, there's no one on this agency's staff that has a T5 or D5 that's responsible for it. Met's responsible for those technical issues. It's the policies, and it's the policy that we need to be driving.
I'd just like to
Megan.
add, it seems like there's a difference of opinion on what policy means, because policy is truly a marriage of politics and technical, whereas politics is politics and technical is technical. And I commend you for your commentary on Senator Wynn, and as I was listening, I was hearing a case for Congress more than anything else.
Well, she's running for MODOC in 2020. She told me that. So.
But you did bring up the water taxes being one of our top 2 priorities, and that was a conversation I had with Senator Wynn when I did meet with her, and she was unaware of our Senate bill that the water industry was supporting with the Caballero bill. And so, to me, that was an indication that this was not necessarily her primary focus and forte, and I think she's done an excellent job of representing her community on many other issues, but water isn't necessarily one of those that has been at the forefront. And so I took into consideration all of the different candidates, and I think Mr. Wynn represents his community, has been elected to a position, has run an election effectively, and has a technical background. He was the only candidate who had actually read our Orange County Water Reliability Study before meeting and considering this appointment. And to me, that speaks volumes when people are willing to put in the work before they even have the job. And so that is why I am supporting Mr. Nguyen. And I think that there's a fundamental question of what is policy. And policy truly should be a marriage between politics and technical, because if we make poor policy decisions, we have long-term ramifications. And my conversation with our former chair of the State Water Resources Control Board, Felicia Marcus, her commentary was the water fix has issues because we over-politicized it. And had we focused on having more conversations about the technical aspects of it, we may be in a very different position today. And so I think we can beg to differ on our conclusions on that.
Well, I think if you talk to Senator Pat Bates, she'll tell you that in the Senate last year, the minority whip who's whipping the vote against the water tax was Janet Nguyen. So I don't know if you got a chance to talk to Pat, but that was the number one thing that she hammered home with me. I'm not surprised she's not aware of the current Senate legislation because she's not there. She was taking time off. Larry, do you have any comments? Or?
I think we all have comments to make. At some point, we're going to have to move to past the commentary section, but I guess one of the things that I would hope we're able to do is to try and find the magic potion that will make this a well-running board, a board that will mesh and work together. The reason I was supporting Mr. Crandall was because I had seen him develop coalitions in the past. I voted in favor of Wayne over Mr. Crandall the last time we had an appointment. And he let me know how disappointed he was, but that he was continuing to be interested in water. And he's shown that continued interest, hence my support for Mr. Crandall. I must say I'm somewhat disappointed that we have conversations today about we should have another woman, we should have a Vietnamese American, we should not have an old white guy. We old white guys have feelings too.
Hey, bravo.
And, but I support, as I suggested, each of these candidates. We were blessed with scientists, we had a physician, we have veterans, we have hard-working veterans, and we have business owners. I don't think we can make a mistake. I think we're all trying to get the best of the best. So my question now is, we've got two votes, and one vote. What do we do next?
Jeff?
Well, it's the last one to come in behind the old white guys. So I'll back up the old white guys too. I was going to say I was just a little
You're
bit
a young pup.
taken off of that. Yeah, I know. All but close to being old. But no, this is, I've been in public life a long time. This is not a racial issue. It's not. Water's clear. There's no race behind it. There's no Republican or Democrat behind it. It's all applies to every single one of us. Every single one. I represent a very, very diverse community in Division 6. And I speak to them all, young, old, all of them, every single one of them. And I will talk to anybody, anytime, and their race makes no difference. I do understand the advantage here. I want to point out one thing about Mr. Crandall, since we are, talking about candidates that we like. Larry actually was a mayor and a councilman over a water agency to which Wayne Osborne worked for. Wayne Osborne worked for him. And we had Mr. Crandall come in second last time. Larry has also been with the Orange County Sanitation District and helped with GWRS. That's huge. Groundwater replenishment is just a monster job and probably one of the premier projects in the world. So for that fact, I mean, not only does he know water, he's been in it a long, long time. I am not saying that Janet is any less qualified. She brings in incredible credentials. And Mr. Nguyen, he worked for the city of Tustin. He worked underneath me. So yeah, he's very capable, and he worked for some of the very best planners in the county. So I don't want, none of these are unqualified. My preference is Larry Crandall because he brings an ability to hit the ground running right from day one on the technical issues. And I am very concerned about Conwin's incompatibility of office. I think that's a concern. It'd be the first time we've elected somebody to the board, and we just went through this in our administration code to look at the incompatibility of office issue. So I'd be surprised that the board would immediately then appoint somebody who had an incompatibility of office issue. That's a concern of mine. And I have to raise it. We just talked about it, literally, last month. So if we want to do that, then why were we looking at changing the code and looking at the incompatibility of office issue? It's a concern. It really is. And it has to be considered. I'd ask my brethren to think about that vote and, think very carefully about it.
Mary Beth, let's go back through the board and see if we've changed any votes.
Division 7, Director Lee Schneider.
No change.
Director 6, Director Thomas.
Crandall.
Division 5, Director Tamarabucci.
Nguyen.
Which win? Okay, Con win or Janet?
Con.
It's a win-win
Division 2,
situation.
Director
Yes, yes. Mr. Crandall.
And Division 1.
And Janet win. Okay. So we're 2-2-1. What's the pleasure? Do we want to take a break? Do we want to think about it?
We are deadlocked.
I want to make sure I understand this, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
May I ask a question, Mr. Khan, without hurting
Of
anybody's
course.
feelings or
Of
breaking
course.
any rules?
Of course.
Con Wynn, did I understand that if you're appointed here today, you'll continue to serve on the school board and here?
That's my intent. I'd like to serve out my term. I have no intention of rerunning for re-election in the school board if I'm on I'm with MODOC.
May I raise a question?
Sure.
It's my understanding too, if we're deadlocked and can't decide by the 21st, he'll go into the Board of Supervisors, right?
Correct.
Correct.
And they would have 30 days to make an appointment. If
Okay.
they did not make an appointment, then
It comes back here
the
for an
district
election.
would call an election.
Yeah.
And we'd pay for it.
Mhm.
And we'd spend $1 million.
Yeah,
That's right.
Saying that for your benefit, Rick.
yeah. No, and my preference from day one has always been to hold an election, but I can't even get a second on that one.
I'll
so.
second it.
To do an election?
Absolutely.
Okay.
For $1 million?
There we go.
Of ratepayer money?
Democracy is expensive, but it's worth it, so.
Democracy is expensive, but you're asking people in Division 2 to help pay for an election in Division 3.
know.
That's taxation without representation.
You know, I was the only one that was, I was the only one.
We can't do that.
Yeah, I think the agenda says the
we can't do
appointment,
that.
and I understand,
do
I'm
that.
looking over at Mary Beth, that we at a previous meeting took an action to decide to do the appointment, so we certainly could
But we could
decide
change
before the
that.
deadline to change
So-
it. But
so-
since it's not,
But not here.
So-
yeah, I'd suggest we do it the next meeting.
Okay, so on that issue, I appreciate the support, let's set that aside. And if, Mary Beth, if we cannot come to a conclusion today, we know we have 21 days, let's have a placeholder on the joint workshop meeting next Wednesday to deal with all these potential aspects, whether it's appointment or calling an election. So we'll set that aside for now, if we can't come to a conclusion today, and we may not, so.
$1 million.
It's $1 million. Hey, I was the only one fortunate enough to draw an opponent last time, and the other 6 districts had to pay for my election. That's the way it works. So,
Point of clarification, Mr. President.
Yes, sir,
If we wind up deadlocked today,
yes. We have
we
till,
have until the 21st, was it, sir?
till the 21st of June.
21st to
make
act.
it. Yes, that's correct,
I'm sorry, wait, yes.
till the 21st.
Subsequent to the 21st of June, it would be given to the
To the
fifth floor.
Board of Supes. They have 30 days to decide. If they can't make a determination, then it comes back to us with an order to hold an election.
We call the election.
Yeah.
We're not,
Yeah.
there's no choice for us. at that
Yeah.
point.
I mean, before, Larry knows this, I thought we had the votes to just not, because Director Royce had resigned at a point where we could have held it open, just let the voters decide that November. And I didn't win that vote. Not that I remember all the votes that I lose, but I do. And so with Jeff, we supported Larry for, against Wayne that November, and he was not successful. But so we're 2-2-1. And I'd say we're probably all pretty firm on this. What's a preference? Do you want to take some time, come
You
back
wanna
next
drop the
Wednesday,
lowest vote getter?
have a discussion?
Why don't we take a 5-minute break?
Okay.
Well, just, if you take a 5-minute break, what happens during that 5-minute break?
I go to the restroom.
Because I want to make sure we all understand, this
Hate
is
to
supposed to
share
be
that
all
with
done in
everybody,
this
but
room,
I was
right?
going to be more discreet.
Only one at a time can go to the bathroom, so let's take a 5-minute break. Jeff, you go first.
I'm going to the restroom, everybody. Oh, boy.
I went before we sat down. I'm older.
Well, it's like the old joke, you're Russian on the way in, you're
And you're Finnish
European,
on the way
and then
out.
you're Finnish on the way out, yeah. Okay, so we're back, it's 9:52. We're 2-2-1. Any calls into Joan? I'm just kidding. So what's the preference here? Do we, I mean, I think we're pretty deadlocked 2-2-1. I don't sense anyone's budging from the 2-2 or 1. Do we want to adjourn this and then take this back up next Wednesday at the joint board meeting? You know, we have what, 4 other candidates, 4 other viable candidates? I don't know, what's,
Just
Jeff?
Just question information here, too. Board's pleasure as to whether or not we drop some of the candidates off. I mean, do we want to continue with the whole group again, or just the top 3? And then take it from there? Because I don't even mind going to a motion, and then we get under discussion, and then we can get down to it if you guys want.
Well, okay, the other candidates, Mr. Beard, who's here from former Garden Grove councilman. We have Mr. McVicker. Where's Bob? Oh, did he leave?
I think he left.
Okay. We have Matt Forrester, and we have Dr. Barkey, who's not here. So we have 2 of the 4 that we dropped off. Do we want to, why don't we go and do our top 2 and see how our top 2 would be and see if that flushes any of this out?
By go, do you mean a motion in a second?
No. I mean, going to the candidates and seeing if, who their top 2 would be and see if that changes the dynamics at all.
Okay.
So I guess I'll start. Obviously, Janet would be my first, and Matt Forrester would be my second.
Division 2, Director Dick.
Crandall and Conway.
Division 5, Satamora Pucci.
Conwan and Crandall.
Division 6, Director Thomas.
Crandall and Janet Lynn.
Division 7, Director E. Schneider.
I have a few tied for second, so I'm just going to stick to my first choice of Conway.
So then that makes it, so it's mostly within that grouping. So let's see, Janet has a first and a second. Crandall has 2 firsts and 1 second. Con Nguyen has 2 firsts and 1 second. So not a lot of change there.
I could do it where we X out you just take the top 2, and then we make a decision from there. We just keep on winnowing it down until we get a winner.
I was trying not to do that, but this is a 5-member board, and that's a fair process. We have to get to 4 at some point. Mary Beth, call the roll.
So just to be clear, the suggestion is the top
This
2
is
would be
the drop
Conway
down
and
to
Larry
the top
Crandall.
2. Pardon me? No, this is another vote to see.
I'm sorry, whether of
Of
those-
the 3,
Of those
or
three.
of the 4 candidates, we have Mr. Forrester, we have Senator Nguyen, we have Con Nguyen, and we have Mr. Crandall. So, but you're going to call and ask who our number 1 is again, and
I may vote for Chris as soon as.
Director E. Schneider,
Conway,
Director Thomas,
Crandall?
Director Tamarabucci,
Conway.
Director Dick,
Crandall.
and Director Barbie.
Janet Nguyen. So, sounds like Janet is dropped out for consideration now. So now we're down to 2 candidates, Con Nguyen and Larry Crandall. Let's go back, let's call the roll again.
Director E. Schneider,
Conway,
Director Thomas,
Crandall?
Director Tamarabucci,
Conway.
Director Dick,
Crandall.
and Director Barbie.
Crandall. So we're at 3-2. Director Tamarabucci, Director Hugh Schneider. Either of you want to switch? Or do we want to push this over to next Wednesday for further consideration?
Mr. President.
Director Dick.
I can't urge this board enough to resolve this situation. We are having challenge enough making a decision, and we understand the demands put on the candidates. To turn this over to the Board of Supervisors, while I'm sure they are above reproach and honorable people, don't misunderstand that, but they can't know the day-to-day machinations of this organization. I urge us to work together to find 4 votes in favor of a candidate.
Can I ask, I'm going to ask a question of the 3 we were dealing with. Mr. Nguyen, if you're appointed, will you run for re-election in 2020?
Tomorrow, absolutely.
And what's the most you've ever raised campaign-wise?
I'm not sure we should be.
No,
I don't know.
no, this is a question.
I'm
Joe,
very
Joe,
uncomfortable with
stay
that
up.
question
I
you're
can ask
talking
any
about.
question. I'm asking him, what's the most he's ever raised in a political campaign,
And
which
you
is
can
a
decide whether to
viable...
answer or not, but I would voice my
Well, it's
displeasure
a
and
polit-
advice to
Joe,
not
it's a
talk
political
about
decision. It has,
raising money
this is not
and
an
political
HR.
campaign issues or something
Well.
that we shouldn't be discussing at a public meeting.
Larry, will you run for office in 2020?
I've run for 8 successful elections, and I'll always run, I'm planning on running in 2020.
Okay. And Janet, if you're appointed, will you run for re-election in 2020?
Yes.
So all 3 of them would run. So now we're down to 2, so both Mr. Nguyen and Mr. Crandall said they would both run. So we're at 3-2.
I would just like
We
to
have,
comment. Mr.
just a sec, we have till the 21st of June, so before we send the clarion call, don't send it to the board, don't send it to the
Oh,
board.
don't do that.
Yeah, we'll do that. Megan.
Mr. Crandall, I just wanted to thank you again for all of your dedication and your time. Again, I just wanted to reiterate, the reason why I am supporting Mr. Nguyen is he was the only candidate who was prepared enough to understand what we do as a district and research what we have focused on as our priorities and really truly comprehend our reliability study. We had discussed it prior to our interviews, and unfortunately, he was the only one to truly answer that question. And so that is part of the reason why I want to support Mr. Nguyen, because he has not only shown that he will put in the effort and the homework ahead of time, but he has also been the only one to come to all of our meetings since our appointment has been announced in the times past. And so I think there's a tremendous amount of talk the talk versus walk the walk. And I think Mr. Nguyen demonstrated that he will not only talk the talk, but also walk the walk and invest the time and effort necessary to do a good job on this board. And so that is why I'm supporting Mr. Nguyen wholeheartedly.
Mr. Crandall's made all the meetings too, so he's been to the meeting since.
Yeah. Sat, do you have any comments, Larry?
Not at the moment.
I think we should put it over.
You want to put it over to next Wednesday?
Yeah.
Well, if we put it over, I mean, we can do that, but if neither of the two of you are willing to move, then we're going to have to. So we're deadlocked at 3-2.
Mhm.
So you're suggesting you're going to stay with Con regardless?
No, I'm saying we should put it over.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Megan?
My vote is not going to change.
Okay. Larry? Is your vote going to change?
You know what I've always said, that you have to have a firm feeling and to draw a line in the sand. If the situation changes, you have to be prepared to move the line. I hope somewhere between now and the 21st, if we do indeed move it over, somebody can find a way to move the line. We need to get this done in this body. This does not need to go to the 5th floor of the Board of Supervisors. They've got other things to do. They don't need to be involved here. I am disappointed that we cannot find 4 votes. I am disappointed that we couldn't reach that number, and I can't find a way in my heart or in mind to figure out how to convince somebody to make a change.
Jeff?
You know what I'd love to do is make a motion to appoint Larry Crandall, and then through that we can have further discussion, because there is a discussion to be had about the candidates, and that we can get into further. I don't know if I can sway the opinions. I thank you for coming over to the Crandall side, Mr. President. And,
Well, that was...
I know. On the vote. I get it.
I'm still not going to be happy with it. I still think Janet, as demonstrated this morning, has the most community support based on the number of phone calls, the most political support, and I think would be the best for this agency. But I guess the majority of this board right now has decided we don't want to be an active agency, we just want to go to conferences and do white papers, and that's frustrating to me.
Well,
I'd like to make a motion to have Larry Crandall appointed to the board of MoDOT for Division 3.
It's been moved by Thomas. Is there a second?
I'll be glad to second it because I support Mr. Crandall's candidacy. I hope that this is not an exercise in futility.
Let's do a roll call. Start.
Can we have some discussion?
Well, do you want discussion? Okay. Jeff?
Yeah, let me just kick it off. If you would grant me this, please. I am not liking a little bit of the overtones here about being white and old and going to conferences and white papers.
I don't like the part about being old.
Yeah, I don't either, and because obviously one of the candidates is an older white gentleman, and I actually think that is very bad. We can't be doing that. It just casts him in a bad light. I don't think we do that to anybody here. We don't call anybody names, and we've got to have some class. And in this case, I would be disappointed for anybody that loses. I want to let everybody know that I don't dislike you. I like all of you, and I said that at the very beginning. It has nothing to do with race, color, creed, any of that. It's who I feel could do the best job, period. That's it. And I leave it there. And I felt the most qualified was Larry. We felt he was the most qualified last time. And here we, last month, go through a whole exercise on a committee that I chair on incompatible offices. And here we are, the next month with an incompatible office issue, and we're like, okay, well, that's all right, we'll just allow it in. And frankly, I think that violates the spirit of what we were doing. I have to call that into question, guys. I mean, it was then a waste of time, what we did. And that's what we did, and I have a feeling that this poor gentleman is going to be facing some issues ahead of him that perhaps maybe he doesn't fully grasp. And I just don't think we need to do that. I think we need to get on, swear somebody in today and get moving on. And that's what this agency is going to do. I think any of these three candidates would do a great job. Mine just goes to Larry. That's it.
You know, I mean, I'm more than happy to go through all the candidates and explain how I arrived at the decision that I did. And I want to make sure it's clear, not one piece of it had to do with the ethnicity or the sex of the person. That is the least important thing to me. I'm a political guy by nature, so the first thing I do is I look at how active these people are. It's just my personal. How often do they vote? I think that's an important marker. Mr. Crandall, Mr. Beard, and Senator Wynn are 20 out of 20, the last elections. Not surprising. Former councilman, former councilwoman, supervisor, senator. I went down, the first one, Betty Burnett. I love Betty. I would love to serve with Betty. If she was not on working at SACWA, she would be a great board member. She has the right perspective. But having looked at the conflict of interest issue, which obviously she has and Joe has, I had to take her off the table because I knew that would be an issue down the road. Same thing with Mr. Nguyen. I assumed he's on the school board, he's not going to give that up. That's going to create unnecessary kerfuffles at our board meetings with people coming. I was concerned about that. Mr. Beard, I was very impressed with Mr. Beard. I knew him from the county and very, very highly regarded. It just didn't seem to mix up. Rich Murphy, I like Rich, but I knew he wouldn't go because he would give up seat on OCTA, which that area fought for a long time to get him on that. Bob McVickers, did Bob come back? I like Bob. Bob's been around a while, but I was really kind of irritated about a year ago. There was a rumor floating around that Wayne was resigning at that time, and he immediately started making calls for the position, and it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, so I kind of set him aside. Matt Forrester, I took Matt on Met trips. I love Matt. Matt would be a great board member. Jeff Barkey, I knew Jeff, busy physician, passion for education. I just wasn't sure he would have the time, which then brought me down to Janet, Matt, and Larry were kind of my top three. And with Janet, to me, she checked all the boxes. She's been active in the community, political community. She knows how to move legislation. She knows Sacramento better than anyone else on this board or staff. She knows the fifth floor better than anyone on this board or staff. She's actually spent time legitimately lobbying in DC for specific pieces. I thought she checks the boxes. I'm a short timer for this board, and so I thought I would be more than happy to entrust kind of the person out front taking the spears, leading the charge on stuff. And I'm okay with that. Need to remind all of you, if I hadn't led the charge, we wouldn't be talking about 2 tunnels. If I hadn't led the charge, none of you would have gotten your substantial refunds back. If I hadn't led the charge on a whole host of issues. And I know I get criticized, and when you're out front, you're going to take arrows. I don't mind the arrows in the front, it's the knives in the back. And politics I can't stand. So Janet was someone that I think will be out front fighting, and that's where I continue to stand to this day. Larry, you have any comments, or are we ready? You ready for the vote, Megan?
Just for everyone's in my notes.
Okay.
Again, we need to get 4 votes.
Yep.
We have 3 resting with 1 man. We can get 4, we'll be there. Otherwise, we're gonna have to move 2 to the other candidate. Or we can, you know, hope that we get a 6th board member present on the 21st, but I don't think that's gonna happen. And I would hate to put that burden on an individual who's not had the benefit of these experiences. So.
You ready to vote?
3.
You ready to vote?
Yeah.
You ready to vote? You ready to vote? Mary Beth, call the roll. The motion is Thomas for Crandall, Dick second.
Director Barbary.
No.
Director Dick.
Yes.
Director Tamarabucci.
No.
Director Thomas.
Yes.
Director E. Schneider.
No.
Motion fails.
Okay, motion fails. So I would say at this point, we're deadlocked. We'll come back next Wednesday. You won't be here?
Check my schedule. Let me check my schedule.
Well, we have a board meeting next Wednesday, the 3rd. So it's on the agenda.
I'll be there.
It's the 5th.
It's what?
Oh, the 3rd.
It's the 5th.
It's
It's, I'm sorry, it's the 5th,
is
yeah.
the-
A week from today is the 5th, sorry. So, we'll come back the 5th. All 7 candidates, I think, are all legitimately in.
What time are we looking at that day?
Well, 8:30 is when the meeting starts.
It's a regular.
It's a regular,
It's a regular meeting.
regular joint workshop.
I'm supposed to be up in the Sierras. I'll see if
Okay.
I can't guarantee it.
No, you can always call in.
Or
Satellite.
I mean, the phone's working Montana.
Or you can call the 5th floor and tell them to get ready.
The 3rd
Other
is
meetings
also.
that they might.
So the other meetings, we have, do we have one Monday?
Yes.
Monday the 3rd, we have P&O.
Are you gonna be here then?
So we can do an adjourned, we don't have a big agenda, I think, so we'll just do the quick agenda there, and then we'll convene a board meeting afterwards. So let's come back Monday, and we'll see if we can get to 4 votes on somebody. Any other comments for the good of the order? Yes, ma'am.
Is the public able to?
Of course, of course. It'll be in this room.
Absolutely.
Can we maybe see?
I can check.
Yeah. So, so we are adjourned until Monday,
At what time?
8:30.
8:30 a.m. Thank you very much.